Today we've got a quick recap of yesterday's elections, and the quick summary is it was a great night for the Dems. The Republicans pretty much wiped out across the board. The headline here sums it up in Virginia. Blue wave rebuilds the House. Democrats soar to at least 64 seats in Virginia. That's a pretty substantial majority. So at the time I'm recording this, all the results are not yet in. But I think we got a pretty good idea of what happened, and again, not a pretty sight here for the GOP. So we'll go through it quick and we'll take a look at some exit polling. First in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger wins and defeats Winsome Sears. Not a surprise at all. The margin, however, it's about 15 points here, and that is a surprise. This is much bluer than pretty much anybody expected. So it is a flip and a pickup here for the Dems. And we're going to keep going through this. Let's go down here to Attorney General. This was the big race that it seemed like Republicans might have a shot at. Of course, Jones had that big scandal, but it looks like that didn't go anywhere. His margin was way less than Spanberger's, but her margin was just so big that was enough to pull Jones over the line. I thought it was a pure toss-up. It could go either way, but I didn't see Jones winning by a likely margin, along with pretty much anybody else. So Republicans not even really all that close here in this seemingly winnable race. And then finally, we've got Lieutenant Governor here. This is between the two previous margins, but Ghazala Hashmi defeats John Reed by 11.5 points. So a real blue night here. And then of course, if you go down into the legislature, again, Dems have a bunch of pickups here. They easily control the House. Let's move on to New Jersey. Here again, it's a double-digit blowout. Mikey Sherrill holds this seat for the Dems. She defeats Jack Ciattarelli right now by 13%. Pretty much all the gains Trump made reverted back toward the Dems. A lot of people thought there was a scenario where Ciattarelli could pull it out. I was one of them, even though I thought Sherrill was going to win. But I didn't think she could get it up to this kind of a margin. Big overperformance here for the Dems. Republicans have a lot of questions to answer. So those are the two main races. Then we've got New York City Mayor. Still some vote to come in at this minute, but as expected, Zoran Mamdani wins, and right now he's just over 50%. Andrew Cuomo at under 42, so not a super wide margin, but a win nonetheless. And Curtis Lee with a Republican, only 7%. So he might have had some of his voters actually cross over and vote for Cuomo. That would have been an attempt to stop Mamdani, but that didn't pan out. If you go down here and look at some of the specific data, you could see Cuomo did a lot better with mostly white residents, but Mamdani did a lot better with black and Hispanic residents. And there's a lot more breakdown here. Those who voted for Biden in 20 and Trump in 24 went for Cuomo by 18 points. And if you go down to each borough, Mamdani wins 4 of the 5. He gets blown out in Staten Island, and it's close in Queens, where right now he's up by 5. We've got more here. Here's the Pennsylvania Supreme Court retention races. 3 seats that Democrats were trying to hold, and they did so easily. A 22-point margin for all 3. So that's going to be a big boost for them on that court. And again, it's not even close. And let's take a glance here at California Prop 50. Still outstanding vote, but right now, yes, easily dominates at almost a 2-to-1 margin. So that's even wider than a typical statewide margin here. So a clean sweep for the Dems, but it gets even better for them. In Georgia, 2 of the Republicans on the Public Service Commission were defeated. It's not the most high-profile race, but there hasn't been a Dem on that board there since 2007. So this election, even though there wasn't a ton happening, was clearly a blue wave. Republicans should be glad that there was not additional stuff on the ballot, but Dems are definitely going to feel bullish about headed toward next year's midterms. Now we'll come back to that in just a minute, but let's glance at some of the exit polling. So here on NBC, we could see right up top here, opinion of the Democratic Party, 50% unfavorable, 47 favorable. Doesn't look great for the Dems, but it's a lot better than what we've seen in the recent months. But if you compare that to the Republicans, look at this. We've got them at 49-49. It's about the exact same thing. And it goes to show that even though the Dems are unpopular, they still had tons of success in these elections. So let's go down here and see what we've got. So these are the first major elections of Trump's second term. And we're going to focus pretty much on the charts here. How is Trump handling his job as president? In New Jersey, 43% approve. In Virginia, it's 41. New York City, 29. In California, 36. Now, excluding New York City, these numbers here kind of match up to what both the Dems and the Republicans got in this last election. They're not too far away from all the margins. In California, it would be with Prop 50. So there's some good correlation here with these numbers. Let's go down here. How do you feel about the way things are going in the country today? In New Jersey, it's only 33. Virginia, it's 35% that are satisfied or enthusiastic, about a 2-to-1 dissatisfied ratio. The economic concerns and cost of living are at the top of most people's lists. So that's one of the big reasons Dems were able to have success. It talks about Trump on immigration. It says a slim majority think his actions have gone too far. What about down here? In Virginia, those that voted for Harris, 97% went towards Spanberger, just 3% for Sears. But with Trump voters, 6% went for Spanberger, 93% for Sears. And the bottom two are even more striking. Those that voted other in the last election, 49% went for Spanberger, 28% for Sears. And how about this? Those that did not vote, 57% went for Spanberger, 37% Sears. So that tells you a lot about who turned out yesterday. And I'm going to keep going down here. Feel free to pause it if you'd like. But for New Jersey voters, under 30 years old, 66% went for Cheryl. First-time voters, also 66%. Women, 59%. And independents, 52%. That's the coalition right there that propelled Cheryl as well as other Democrats over the top. So that's a quick summary of what happened. Now, as for the takeaways from these results, well, I think most people underestimated the Dems, myself included, but everything else was just way bluer than expected. It seems like in every election, there's an underestimation of one side or the other. In 22, it was the Dems. In 24, it was the Republicans. And here again, in 25, it's the Dems. Politics does seem to keep swinging back and forth like a pendulum. Once you get into power, it's tough to keep it. The economy and cost of living does seem to be the biggest deal right now. The Dems tend to benefit on economic issues, Republicans more so on the cultural side. Right now, with all these costs, plus the government shutdown, that turned these election results from a win into a landslide for the Dems. Now, I've heard Trump say that because of the shutdown and because he wasn't on the ballot, that's why the Republicans lost. Who knows what kind of an effect he would have had? I don't think he would have been able to overcome that kind of a deficit. But a lot of the gains he made with Hispanic voters and the swings in New Jersey and Virginia in his direction in the last election, they just went back to their normal partisan leans and then some. I always say politics is fleeting. It seems like whatever happened most recently is what voters think is going to happen in the next election. But we could clearly see that things keep changing. Both parties get complacent. They get into power, they do some things people like, then they do other things that voters don't like. Then that gives the other party an opportunity to come back. Now, with Trump in the White House and Republicans in total control of the federal government, I do think the conventional wisdom is the party out of power is going to make gains. That is what happened here, but it was clearly more than almost anybody could have imagined. And that doesn't mean that's going to happen in the next election, but it does give Republicans a lot of concern about the midterms next year. Dems are going to think there's going to be a blue wave, and there might be. But as we keep seeing, whatever happened in the last election is not necessarily what's going to happen in the next one. Republicans took a big hit here, but Dems are likely to get back into power eventually, like they did in these races. They'll go too far in other directions, and this cycle will keep happening over and over. So that's it. That's the recap and some thoughts about what happened here in the 25 elections. Solid night for the Dems. It'll be fun to see what happens next. But for now, let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these results? Which one was the most surprising? It's probably going to be the one with Jay Jones in Virginia, but also the double-digit margins here for the Dems, as well as those races in Georgia. What do you think were the biggest contributing factors here? What do you think the Dems are going to do right and wrong after these results? And does this tell us much about the next election? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.